Hey, hey, badasses. Welcome back to another episode of Ladies Kickin Ass. Today, we are going to have a real good one for you. I can tell from the previous conversation before we hit record, this is going to be a good one because we just have already made lots of good connections and things that we have in common. And so I know she's going to resonate a lot with you. So today, Cathy Christen is our guest, and she has an incredibly extensive background from coaching, being a badass in male-dominated areas, sales. She's an author. She's a mom of 3 under 5. So hallelujah, she's running 4 businesses too. So none of us have any damn excuses after having this conversation today. So Cathy, thank you so much for being here with us on the podcast. I know you've accomplished so much. We just listed those off, but obviously there's some dots connected there. When did you decide to kind of step into the role of being able to coach women, and you were really interested in being able to help them and create the community that you have with GoBundance? Was it that really fired you off with that to step into that role in addition to what you do professionally?
Oh, I love that question, Tanya. So for me, it really didn't hit until I was getting close to my mid-30s, where I think that in my 20s, I liked being like the only woman in a male dominant, like kicking all the guys' butts, like there was this excitement about that, and I enjoyed it. And I think that as I started getting close, like to my 30s, and then in my early 30s, I'm looking around and I was like, man, I don't have other women like me to talk to. A lot of my friends had kids young, or they were stay-at-home moms, or just had a very different lifestyle. And I was, running my company, which I've had now for 23 years. I was traveling the world. I was doing all these things. I wanted to do more, wanted to impact. And I remember, having some of my best friends say like no one's going to want to marry you. Like no one's going to want to, like all these things. And I'm like, whoa, that's harsh. Because I'm not the stereotypical like stay at home, mom. And the fact is that's never going to be me. I mean, even right now I've got 3 kids and I do have it set up where I could spend some great time with them, but I'm a builder, I'm a shaker and a mover. And like, I love being able to impact them, and grow them as well. But I'm not wired to just stay home and not do anything, So my husband's laughs. He's like, as you've stayed home on semi-retirement with the kids, I think you've helped people launch 3 new companies and you've launched 2. I'm like, oh yeah, he's like, I thought you were slowing down, but I craved being around I didn't know that I'm like, where are women like me? Like, there's no way I'm the only person like this, but I felt like that. I felt very isolated in my community. And I, was just like kind of looking out there. And I remember talking to a buddy of mine and he's like, well, if you can't find it, build it, which sounds like similar to what you did. And I was like, all right. And so I was going to actually start my own group that I'm not good with names. And I had called it Holistic Go-Getter. But I was like, I want people that are like freaking badass, making shit happen, but they also care about like slowing down and connecting and being grounded and taking care of their health, and because there's too many type A go, and they build, but they damage relationships, which I did in my early years. Their health is suffering, and they've just become lonely workaholics in a lot of cases. And they might say, well, my family's the most important thing. I do it for them. And that was me in my early years, but my calendar did not reflect that. And, and I unfortunately lost my cousin who was my best friend in the whole world at 23. And that was kind of a wake up of like, okay, what are you doing? And making sure I was more intentional with what I was doing. And then I think when I lost my sister in my early 30s, she passed when I was 30, actually, when she passed right before I was 31. And I just remember that being like, whoa, like we are not promised tomorrow. And it really made me look inward to go like, do I love the life I'm living? If I passed away today, do I, like what would people say? And just really take time for self-awareness, knowing that moving forward, like anything I was doing, I just wanted to be really intentional, that it was in alignment with who I wanted to be, how I wanted to be remembered, what I wanted to leave behind. And so a lot of things shifted. I went through the year after my sister passed away, I went through Tony Robbins' entire program again, which I had been through in the past. And so I went through all the mastery program. I went to Date with Destiny, and that Date with Destiny in December of 2014, you can actually watch it on I'm Not Your Guru. You'll see me crying within 5 minutes. They like zoom in to me crying my eyes out.
Nice. I've watched that several times, but that is an incredibly powerful
now you go back,
event.
You're like, she is. But that event really shifted a lot for me, and wanting, really wanting to live life. Like, I think that I was just building, and I wasn't taking time to like live as much in the process. And I did when I traveled, but when I was home, like there was just no structure that could even support a family, And so things little by little just started shifting for me in my late 20s. And then, in my mid 30s, I was craving to be around women. I had younger women in our industry coming to me for mentorship and asking me, who are your female mentors? I remember when one asked me that, I just froze, Tanya. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know that I don't have one. Like, I'd never really been around women. And they said like, well, it's just different being a woman and being a man with this, that, I'm like, oh, for sure. But I just kind of had to figure it out on my own because the guys didn't get it, or their wives were home with the kids or whatever it might be. And so that right there, like, made a big shift, like, oh my gosh, like what could things have looked like if I had this? And I sought out female mentors in my mid 30s because I wanted to have a family and I wanted to, and I'm like, what does that look like to be able to have my businesses, continue the life that I built, that I love my life, and also add a family to that. Like, what does that look like? And so I went out and sought out people who had that, who had beautiful families, thriving businesses, were very busy, whether they were running marathons, doing nonprofits, like just like very active members of our community. And I saw, okay, it exists. It's out there, and I was really blessed through male friends of mine and colleagues of mine that they knew the founders of GoBundance Men, which has actually been around unofficially for about 20 years. And they had said, hey, you guys need to meet Kat. And they had told me about the group and I was ready to sign up. And they were like, oh no, it's men only. I was like, what? But they were looking to launch a women's division and had asked if I would meet for a founders meeting to see if what it would look like and if I'd be interested. And that's been one of the coolest blessings, to be able to get involved serving women. But really the stimulation I've received and the support I've received, oh my gosh, like absolutely has blown away what I would have ever even thought could happen.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing when you get into groups like this, you get in there and you're like, I'm going to help people. And this is like, I'm coming from like a service heart, but you get so much out of that. Like being able to see people that I talk with and mentor, like build these businesses and them start believing in themselves. And they make those big first things that they need to do. A lot of them are just starting in the home service or trades industries, or they're trying to grow their business. And you just see what they're able to do. It's just like, that's the best feeling of being like, hey, I had some encouragement in helping them be able to get to this point. Right. It's like all those struggles that you went through is somebody's survival guide somewhere along the line. And it's so cool to be able to give that back to people.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love how you said that. Somebody else's survival guide. That's awesome.
I really think that just the vulnerability that you get in a group of women that are these type A achiever go-go's, want to accomplish and conquer the world stuff is a completely different energy and vibe than you get from some other groups that you are in, and it's one of those things that I always encourage people. If you're in a group of women and you don't feel supported or feel like they're like your number one cheerleaders, you're in the wrong group. Yep. And I'm sure 100%. Like at your level with stuff too, like, is it difficult for you to be able to find these groups of people? Or if you're looking for that, how do you find them?
Yeah, it was a little bit more difficult, and I think that that's where we are excited to build GoBundance. GoBundance, you do have to be an accredited investor to be in that group. And, we have women worth, millions to tens of millions. But what I love is that they're all conscious leaders. And they're always like, how can I grow? How can I learn more? How can I give? And just being surrounded by people that think like that, like for me, I was brought up with like, money's the root of all evil, all those things. And so I thought people that had money were like bad people, And so honestly, in GoBundance, I've been like just blown away. I'm like, wow, like the hearts of these people and what they want to do. And and being able to find groups. And there weren't, like we had looked, like there weren't many groups for high net worth women. I mean, there's a lot of male groups or co-ed groups, but very few women in them. And we really wanted to create a sacred space where women could really step into that feminine, that feminine flow, because so many of us have built everything in our masculine, and we're like, we really want to be able to support each other to slow down, to be conscious of that, knowing that like when you sharpen the axe, and we all know it, we're all into professional growth and development, but yet you still go, and you want to help everybody. And you have, if you're moms and you have kids, like that's a full-time job in and of itself, and like taking care of all the things. And so being able to say, you know what, no, I need to slow down and pour into me, so that I can serve from an overflow, right? Not from an empty cup. And so that's something that I think that these women and myself really understood. It's like, man, if we're not taking time to just pour in, to network with others that really like stimulate us, that fill us up, that give us ideas, that give us support, because sometimes it's ideas, sometimes it's support, sometimes it's encouragement, sometimes it's, sharing those stories, like you said, like the survival guide. So like, okay, you've been there, like, hey, I lost everything, or I lost this, or we had this deal go sour, and like, here's how we got through it. And being able to share these stories with each other, that it does shorten your learning curve. It does give you, stories of hope and resilience, and knowing like, all right, cool, like I can get through this, right? Like it's not the end of the world to lose. It sucks, like to lose $500,000 or $1 million, but like, and also so many of the greatest people have done that. But what's made them great is that didn't define them, and that didn't stop them. They learned from it, and they grew stronger, and they were better equipped, and they were able to help others along the way. And I think that's really beautiful within our community. And, as we look at, even right now this year, we're like, all right, we need to launch 2 more divisions, because there are ultra high net worth women out there, who are in the, 8 to 9 figure, net worth personally. And then we also have women who might be at 6 figures, who are hungry, who are resilient, who want that mentorship, who have not achieved accredited investor status yet. And so those are two groups that we're going to be launching in the second quarter for GoBundance that we're super excited about. And so that inner circle up top, and because they're talking about different things, like they don't need to work, they don't need to do it. And they're like, how do we impact? How do we change the world? Like, how do we have social impact? And the conversations they're having are so beautiful. And I like love getting to see, and I'm like, how soon can I be at that table, right? Where we're talking, hey, let's donate $500,000 of this. Hey, let's donate this here. Like that excites the hell out of me. And so I love having those different, groups and also the younger ones who are like, I want to get to $1 million plus net worth. I want to be around women thinking like this, and having the guidance of what does it take, right? Communication, mindset wise. What does it take with habits of wealth building, right? Of savings, not just saving, but like making your money work for you. What does that look like? And I think that a lot of women for many years didn't have these conversations. I mean, shoot, women didn't have bank accounts till the 70s, right? And so like these were in conversations where guys are always talking about this and this investment and wealth building. And like that just hasn't been a space where it's been curated for women to have these like high level conversations, not like in our society. And now there are a lot of small groups that have popped up, doing this. But I think that our community is pretty exceptional at supporting each other, providing knowledge, wisdom, really educating people, but also like giving guidance and watch out. No, here are the red flags. Here's what to look for. Here's what yes and no, right? Like what to do, what not to do. Like what's good, what red flags you want to watch out for, and being able to have people who've been there or done that be able to share their experiences with you. It's just amazing. It's like we all get to win together, and men have been doing this forever. And women have not. And it's so sad. And we're excited to see that continue rising in our world.
Oh my gosh, there's so much goodness in that. I'm like, I should have been taking notes here. Like I truly resonate with you a ton too, because I grew up like that too. And it was an extra layer of, oh, they must have fucked somebody over because they've got money. There was no pure way or a good intention way of making money. They screwed somebody over in order to get it, And so regardless of whether they're saying money is good, money is bad, you start as a young child, start drawing that conclusion of like, my parents are always fighting over money. Like, I'm not going to do this. And some of us develop at the point, like, I know I have done this, where it's hard for me to be in a marriage and be in a partnership because I'm like, I will never, ever have to deal with like what my mom did and being like under somebody's thumb for a monetary situation,
Yep.
We're not going to be stuck because of money. So for me, I think for a lot of women, it's very interesting to define like, what does having abundance mean for you? Mm-hmm. Because if you just want it, is it like, what's the inspiration behind it? For me, it's freedom. Like you have freedom of choice, you have freedom of time, You can buy your time back because you've got some abundance to be able to do that. Like that means the world to me, especially as a mother. Like no one's going to tell me what to do with my time or that I can't be here for my kids. So I think
so huge. So
a
huge.
lot
And
of
Tanya, like
women
that,
in
like
this.
in my early career, like I realized that so many leaders, including myself, like were achieving success at the expense of their well-being and personal fulfillment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw women in particular struggling to balance their ambitions with the demands of work and life and feeling like you had to choose one over the other. And I mean, I was told a million times, you cannot have it all. And I'm like, I don't like that. I want
Yeah.
to have it all, right? And like I wanted to show that it doesn't have to be that way. Like success can be aligned with your values and designed intentionally. And so my goal, for years I've worked with youth. I love working with youth because for me, I'm like, if I want to change the world, if we change our youth, we change the world. They're our future leaders, the future parents, the future impactors, and I love working with women, but helping, these incredible leaders create systems that allow them to reclaim their time, step into their power and thrive in every aspect of their life, and so like empowering others to truly live a life they love while achieving personal success. That's what drives me every day.
Yeah. And I think that's something that people in this industry struggle with big time. We were talking about before we hit record. There's so many people specifically in the service industry, they get into it. They are the service provider. They're the worker. They start this. And then they can't figure out how to get out of that. All the time you're kind of working to where you don't want to be the operator. You want to be the owner. You want to be pouring into the people, not pouring into the tasks. Like, what is your advice for this audience in getting them to realize how important, one, systems are in order to get them out of that? And two, what's the mindset shift that you have to have in order to really go from operator to owner? Because it is different.
Yeah. It is. It is so different. I think that for me, everything starts with like life vision. Like, what do you like in its perfect state? Everything's running beautifully. You wave a magic wand and you're like, wow, I'm living the life of my dreams. What does your business look like? How large is it or small? Some people prefer the small boutique local place and everybody knows their name and they love that. And it's just perfect. And some people, they're like, I want to be known all over the world and I want to do this and we're going to be online. And so great. There's no right or wrong. It's just knowing like what excites you, like, and what does that look like? Right. But what does your life look like? Like, how much time do you spend with your kids and grandkids? Like, how much time do you spend at your church or nonprofits? How much time do you spend on your health? Are you like training for marathons or triathlons? Or are you just coaching your grandkids' soccer team? Or, what does it look like? And so when you have this time freedom, because I think that we all like, that's the American dream. Like, you're like, oh, to have my time freedom, but people go out to run their own business and they create like 3 full-time jobs for themselves or more within business,
or
right?
more. Have a couple of kids, throw that in there too,
their system's lacking. And so I think that knowing like, okay, what do I want my life to look like? Right. And for anyone that's like service oriented and, I think about in the trades, like a lot of times, like there's a specialization, that you have or somebody has. And I've heard that as an excuse. Well, I'm the, the master plumber or I'm the this. And I'm like, great. I'm like, what do you want life to look like in 5 years? Like, do you still want to be the master plumber or do you want to own the company and be a mentor to master plumbers? Do we want to do this? And then so how do we start training? Like, why don't you be known as like the best developer of master plumbers? You've been one, you've been there, and now you're coaching others to do that, mentoring, bringing in people to your company and taking them under your wing. And when you're working to teach someone. So that they are your apprentice, so that you can multiply yourself and multiply your efforts. And a lot of times they don't think, they're just like, just doing my work. And it's like, for me, I got to a point, I was doing that from 2002 to probably 2007. I was just doing my thing. I'm just going to do it. Oh yeah, I got it. Because it felt like it took more time to develop someone to do it as good as me. And so it was faster to just do it myself. Right. And yes, that is true in the short run, but that will never help you build the life that you want with ultimate freedom. That will not allow you to scale how you want. That will not allow you to step away and have the business grow when you're not there because it's centered around you. And so that has to shift and really look at, okay, like it will take a little bit more now, but that means literally within 6 months, I can go take a week or 2 off with my family and the business will still thrive. Like, can you just put that in your head that this is what's going to open doors? It's like, I'm going to spend time. And so for me, it's I do, we do, you do. So when I'm developing someone and multiplying myself, and this is something that I've coached a lot of people in different, like AC company, this, I'm like, there are tradespeople that are studying right now. They are studying at the universities or at specific trade schools as an airplane mechanic or as this or as that or as a carpenter or whatever it might be, whatever they're doing, AC repair, carpentry, great. Like there are people, where do people get certifications for your industry? Where? Look it all up. What are all the different places? Can you be there saying, hey, we have internships available within my company? Y'all, that is an easy way to get some cheap labor. I hear all the time, well, I don't have the money. We're still building. Great. Get interns. Get student interns that need the hours to graduate anyway and need the mentorship, and get them in there with you and have them watch you and how you do things, right? If you haven't already, create SOPs for all these processes. And you can even have that intern help do that. That could be their first task. They're going to help you create standard operating procedures. If you don't know what an SOP is, that's okay if you're a newer entrepreneur. But these are your standard operating procedures. And you're like, when this happens, here's what we do first. Then we do this. Then we do this. And if you're not good at, I've had people say, oh, like, I'm not going to document it. Great. Have them record you or have them write down step by step as you teach. Hey, first we do this, then we do this. Have them writing it down so then they can put it in. Recording is great. Record you talking, because then you can just take the transcription, put it in ChatGPT and get something there now too, right? But they're watching you and you're teaching them all about the business, and it at the same time getting SOPs made and descriptions of everything if you don't have that already. That's step one. If you don't have standard operating procedures for your company, there's no way for you to leave and expect things to be done just the way you like them. So you need to make sure you document just the way you like them, so that then you can leave and you're like, oh, they crushed it. Of course they did, because you told them exactly what to do. And if you're hiring people that are excited about making, moving up, advancing in the company, making you proud, whatever it is, like they want to do a good job. They just need to know how. Sure. So I do it. They're just watching me. And then it's the next time, and maybe it's the next week, or maybe it's whenever you're in next, it's we do. And we're doing it, like I'm doing something and I'll let them do a little bit of it. I'm like, all right, and like letting them try stuff, but we're kind of doing stuff together where I'm guiding them through the steps or I'm going through. And then later they do it on their own. And then I watch them and give them feedback on how they did. Right. But that process does take, I always say, I'm like, people are like, how long do you think it takes to train like a really great person? I'm like, a month or more. They're like, what? And I'm like, or a quarter. And they're like, it's not a 2-day training and they're great. They're not great. They just got the information. You've got to learn the information. Then you have to get confident in executing what you learned. And then there's the mastery, which comes through repetition and proper feedback. And people don't take the time to do that. And if you do, you'll see how incredible the people you are that you train, because you actually took the time to train them the right way. And they have confidence in executing what you told them, the way you told them to do it. And when you have that, somebody's like, get out of here. I got this. I don't need you here, and that helps create open space in your schedule.
Yeah. And you have to be okay with somebody coming in and being able to do that, being able for them to do it better maybe than you even do it. I think it's so crazy to even say that out loud to me, because I'm like, please stick it, go. But a lot of people, especially in these trades industries, they're like, I can't teach them all my secrets because, and I'm like, fantastic if you don't want to do that, but then understand that you're going to have some people working on like semi what they could be if you actually taught them stuff. Teach them all the stuff and treat them really well so they don't go anywhere else. But you can't prevent that. What if you don't train them and they stay? That's a bigger freaking problem than you had at the beginning in the first place. Now it's just dead weight. So
and you can put non-competes really together and all that. But one of the things is that my mentors told me is like, take pride in training the best people, and I love that you just said that, because he's like, it's better that they grow and move on than they quit and stay. You don't want someone checked out that's with you. And so if you've developed up to a point where they're like, hey, you know what, Tanya, I'm ready to start my own, or now I want to have one of your franchises, and we've trained them, like you should take pride in developing more leaders. The best leaders take pride in developing new leaders. And if you do that, people keep wanting to work with you, because people hear it through word of mouth. And like when someone leaves you, if you train them the right way and you have a good relationship and a good mentorship, when they leave, they don't want to leave you high and dry. And they always want to help make sure that their successor is up to par and that they didn't leave you hanging. Like if you have a good relationship and you're truly helping them, move forward and launch their company or whatever. Like, it's a really beautiful thing when we think in that way. And what can really happen when we have that abundance lens on,
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's the difference between having an abundance lens or a scarcity lens, because you want to be able to do that. I want more people in my industry, say my septic industry, to be better operators, people that have better work cultures, people that treat their people and their customers better, because that just makes the industry look better as a whole. And it's really the way that you just look at that makes such a huge difference. I want to ask you, because you've been in sales most of your professional career, coming right out, learning that in college, coming right out, being able to do that. Now you're a trainer in this stuff. A lot of times in conversations that we have here in the community, women will talk about how they're the only woman at the table, or they're the only woman in the business. And they have a hard time showing up authentically or being that respected boss lady, if you will. Not that that's in a bad connotation, but that respected woman in that trades industry. Maybe she's not out doing all the work, but she's the one that owns the company, or she's the one that's running that. What is your advice for these women for showing up authentically and being able to stay, not be in their masculine all the time, but be able to bring that feminine energy in and create really amazing work cultures for a lot of guys to be working in?
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So you're talking specifically to the female owner, yes?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I was like, because we've got the two, there's the females that are working their way up, kicking butt, and like for those women who are wanting to get to the top or then own, like I really, or get that next director role or whatever it is. Like I think that a lot of women aren't as vocal as men are. Like men are always, oh, I did that. They're like blotting where a lot of women like just kind of downplay things. Or, oh, not a big deal, or this, or their skill sets. Like, no, like find ways to bring value to the organization, do things there and like be vocal, because there's so much more room for advancement. And I think that a lot of women don't grow at the levels, don't get the financial backing that they might need or want because they don't ask for it, or they haven't taken time for certain things. As an owner, as a female owner, where you have lots of men working for you, I think it's really important, one, your level of professionalism, because like that carries so much weight and it does allow you to be more vulnerable and be real and like just that more nurturer, but that level of professionalism is just so important. And that comes from attire around the men. It's really important. It's things that I talk to my women about all the time. I said, unfortunately, like if you look like you're going to a nightclub or you look a certain way, like they're not going to have the same level of respect. They're not going to look at you through the same eyes, and so I think that as old school as it is, it does make a difference because our male counterparts' eyes get very wobbly. So, how we dress, how we carry ourselves, is really important. Being able to be there for people. I think that the feminine side comes out through the loving on people how they like to be loved, right? And what I mean by that is really knowing like love languages. Like, is this person a words of affirmation person? Is this person acts of service? Is this person a gift where I just like left them their favorite chocolate and said, hey, great job yesterday, or like you crushed it on this job, or great job with your leadership, or knowing these things. That's where I feel like the feminine can really shine, because the feminine is a caretaker, is the nurturer. And so knowing how your people feel appreciated, I think is huge, right? And being able to really share vision that has a bigger perspective. I think women have an ability to see a bigger picture, and not only the bottom line, but also how it affects the city, the world, the environment. Like they just have a larger view on things. I think that's one of our superpowers. And so, really tapping into that. But I think it starts with this, because honestly, Tanya, I used to think the feminine was like the weaker energy of the two. And the feminine is even more powerful when stepped into properly. But a lot of women for so many years, we've been like put as the weaker, as the serve, the man is the head, like all these things. And I feel like women haven't stepped in, haven't had a space where they've been encouraged to step into their full power. And so a lot of times women have kind of downplayed, or you don't want to be too much, or you don't want to be here, or you want to be nice to people, or, whatever it is. And so that they're just more quiet. So I think that one is really step into like your full, like, what is you? And if it's eclectic and you like to dress all funky in different colors, like awesome, like do it, right? Like be careful again about depending like the people that you're around. But you can do all the things, like be yourself. So like be your true authentic self. So figure out what that voice is and really think about like when you're sharing vision, here's where we're going. Here's what we want to do. Here's what it's going to look like 1 year, 3 year, like, and you're a visionary. People want to follow. And if you show paths for your people for opportunities for advancement, to grow into these roles, it's like, hey, eventually you want to have a director of this, a director, someone who's doing new acquisitions for new clients, for us, someone who's leading this department. As we see growth, here's where we see things going. And you're able to share those, that shows that professional person, that vision. And they're like, wow, like somebody wants to follow you, not just because of your title, not just because of what you've done, not just because of what you've done for others, which is great, but also who you are, how you live your life, how you give back. And so I think that's where the vulnerability of like, hey, social impact, being able to give. I think a lot of women really carry that forth in a big way. And so how can you have your group, your community, your workers, like that all help you with like your crime scene cleanup, like my friend Laura, or have something else where you do like a community give back day and everybody makes like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like my buddy Mike Abramowitz, and then they go distribute it to the homeless or doing things like that. I think that it ties in, again, the feminine. It creates larger vision. People feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And I think that women have a superpower to do this, and then being able to make sure they feel appreciated, that they're learning, but also being able to put down, that when needed and say, hey, this is not okay. And if someone crosses a line or people are late, people are not submitting reports they're supposed to, people are making snarky comments or maybe, not being professional, like that has to be snipped in the butt immediately. Like women that I work with and coach are like, oh, this person, they'll kind of like make remarks or like a little bit crossing the border where it could even be sexual harassment, but like make comments like, oh, you look really good in that skirt today or in that dress today. We're like, that's not appropriate. Oh, they were just complimenting. No, like a compliment is, what a beautiful dress. That's a compliment. Yeah. Well, a compliment's not, oh, you look really good. That like, that's not okay. And like, that's different if it's your husband or, it's yours, like someone that you're close to, but like, I see too many women let things slide because it seems like, oh, that was harmless. They were just complimenting. It's like, no.
Oh, for sure.
Like, because people will keep pushing it and they'll keep pushing it to see how far they can go. And so like when you cut that shit off right away, then they know, okay, there's no effing around with boss lady, and then you bring the heart, you bring the vision, you bring the support, you bring the appreciation, but there's also that don't F with me and do not cross that line. And they see that and feel that. It's a different energy, And so I had once I was training a group of salespeople, guys, and one of them made a remark like, oh, miss, if we hit this level, do we get to go with you here? Or, they made a comment and I looked at them and I said, I'm sorry, what did you just say? And he just kind of froze and everyone turned and looked. I'm like, do you want to repeat what you just said? I'm like, I think I didn't hear properly. So I want to ask for clarity. Like, what did you just say? And he was like, oh, no, nothing, miss, nothing, miss. I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, because I thought I heard something completely inappropriate, but I just want to make sure I wasn't hearing wrong. And he was like, oh, no. And he said, guess what? No one else tried any stupid crap with me after that. Right. And so it's really important that if someone's being, in this way or snarky or, trying to see what they can push, you need to shut that ish down, ladies. Like, do not allow even a freaking millimeter of bullshit because they'll keep pushing that over. And that's sometimes something I see lacking in women because they don't want to lose the word, lose it. No. Like, I'm okay with losing somebody and having to be a culture fit because a culture in your organization is something that's also going to allow for long-term retainment of people, right? Like the retention aspect. People want to be here. They love being here. They're going to stick around longer, even in high turnover. I have one of the highest turnover industries, and I have one of the highest retention rates because people knew that I cared about them, that we were trying to figure out how my business, and it could be cleaning toilets, putting in septic tanks, doing whatever, like how is my business going to help them get closer to the life of their dreams, right? And that's something that in my book, I talk about with Life as a Masterpiece, like regardless of what kind of industry you have, if you can utilize your business as a vehicle for people, to get closer to the life of their dreams. But first, you need to know what it is they care about. What are they excited about? And that's a whole other topic we talk about another day. But it makes a really big impact because it's not that your trade job is like for some it is, but for others, it's not their end ultimate dream job. but it's a means to an end for some. Well, why don't we make it a really fun vehicle in the journey, right? And it's like, oh, how can we save for this and help you buy your first house or help you send your kid to college or do all these things? And, being able to help your people with that. And that's something that, again, I think that women can do at an even higher level, because there's an easier connection to heart, and wanting to help and support. And I think that women tap into that more naturally, even though we all have it. It is very big in the feminine energy. But anyway, sorry, I could go on and on with all this.
No, it's wonderful. No, it's so good, because a lot of women do that. They make excuses for stuff. And I think I hear often in my community, like, they mistake my kindness for weakness. And I'm like, because you're allowing them to. You're not saying anything. You're not holding them accountable. And that's where that is coming from. So it's almost like one of those, like, ooh, I know I'm in charge, but I don't want to be in charge of this. And I get that. Sometimes you're in that spot where you're like, shit, I don't want to lose this guy, so I'm going to make an exception. But that exception is the role model for the next one. I was just listening to a podcast before we jumped on here, and they were talking about being like, sure, you want to be a role model for the people in your business. You want to be a role model for the people in your family. But what you need to be is a real model of what your standards are, a real model of what you hope or have expectations for them to be. If you're sitting here saying, I need you to do this and I want you to be this kind of person, but you aren't doing that yourself and you're not showing them what that looks like, how is that expectation coming out? It's like you're playing a role, you're not really being real. And I was like, oh, that's a great conversation to have, because if you really show up and show people what it looks like, they now have an idea of what it is. It's like women in these groups talk about making $1 million, talk about these big wins that you have, anything financially. So many women are like, so I made $1 million this year. You're like, what the fuck? Like, you should be shouting that off the rooftop somewhere to people. Like, but women don't want to know. They're like, but people are going to look at me like, who does she think she is? I'm like, you're a fucking badass. And people need to see that, and they need to talk about it more often. So that's a great conversation. Just really stepping into the power that you have. I think a lot of times we feel like the weaker part of this, and you're definitely not.
Going into 2025, I had this vision, and it just said power awakening in the feminine. And I'm like so stoked to see and like be able to help move forward more and more women just really stepping into their full power and understanding how freaking powerful they actually are, because again, we've been made to be the weaker of the two sexes, energies, however you want to look at it, whether male or female, it's the weaker. And it's so strong, and we literally create life, and if you chose not to have kids, that's cool. But what our bodies are able to do, and like the impact we have when you look at the ancient generations, and like you look at the old Indian tribes, like the women were the cornerstone of everything, because they understood the value and the support and like the life-giving and the caretaking and all these things. And it's time to get back to that. And I really see it coming more and more, where women are understanding, like, we cannot sit back on the lines anymore watching everyone else. Like, we've got to get up and get out there. Use your strengths, use your talents. If you're like, I'm not so sure, find the coaches, find the mentors, work with Tanya, find the groups, whatever it is, to have the support that you need to go out there and make things happen, because sometimes we just need to borrow someone else's belief in us until we have it on our own and we've seen, the success. And that's okay. Do what you need to do, but do not sit on the sidelines.
Yeah, you got to take those bold moves. That's our big thing this year. Like, what's your big bold move you're going to make this year? Something that makes you feel like fucking sick to your stomach that you're going to do this. Like, you're scared to death. You have no idea how the hell you're going to do it. That's your bold move for the year. And if we'd make more of those, we'd be not repeating the same year over and over every year. It would look a lot differently. So we're going to keep preaching that one this year. Make a big, bold move. The one that makes you want to throw up a little bit. Those are good things. Move your ass. That's the brass tacks of all of that one. So, Cathy, tell us, if people want to connect with you, which you'd be crazy not to, so definitely jump on her socials and wherever she's going to send you here, where can they connect with you?
Yeah, CathyChristen.com. My website has all the links to my socials. That's probably the easiest way. So Cathy, it's Cathy, and then Christen is like the name Chris, Chris, and the number 10, TEN. So cathychristen.com. And that has links to GoBundance and to our book. We've got some really exciting things coming up this year and some courses to really up-level female investors, entrepreneurs, and just overall leadership, and some fun trips and things that we'll be doing as well. So love to connect and love to see how we can be more of support to your community, Tanya.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. I went to the GoBundance. I signed up for the newsletter because I saw the trip situation there and I was like, damn, I need to be a part of this. Because also, women, if you find yourself like you don't go on trips with women, you don't go out and have these women groups that you can spend time with and do life with. You don't just always have to be doing business, but that you can do life with. There's a magical shift that happens in your life. It is.
And it's really cool when you go on trips with like badass women who love building and have businesses and do party. Like we were in Costa Rica, and I think there was like 2 businesses that started. And where were we just? I'm like trying to think, where were we just this fall? Oh, in Austin. And 2 of our like super elite inner circle women decided to go into business with each other, and they're starting to do like home help, homes for the elderly, and they're just going through it. And I'm like, how cool! We're like sitting by the pool drinking daiquiris, and it's like, what are you working on? What are you doing with this? Oh my gosh, you got to meet so and so. You know, the partnerships and things, like they're always like networking, and so it's really neat too because we get to go have fun and do things. But also like when we leave these events, like there's such like one of our girls was sitting at lunch with someone and they're chatting about stuff, and she's like, did you know if you did this, put this like this, you could save this, and saves her like $250,000 in taxes. And she was like, thanks. That was a really great lunch. You know, and like, I just love how the women are an open book. They're like, here's what helped me, or, you know, here's my accountant, or here's my this, or whatever it is, like to see each other win, to see each other grow. And it's not like, I'm not going to share this because I'm going to win and they're not. No, we can all win. And when we support each other, it's a multiplier effect. And it's really incredible what happens.
Oh, preach. That's beautiful because I feel the exact same way. Well, before we wrap up, I always ask a beautiful question at the end. It is something that is very inspiring to the things that we do inside of the community, because when people hear this phrase, they tend to resonate with it differently. And what we want to do is make sure that we're showing up for everybody in every community at every stage in their life. So when you hear the phrase, ladies kicking ass, what does that mean to you in your life?
That means that women are actually stepping into their power and really seeing what's possible. You know, it's that really tapping into the potential versus sitting back on the sidelines. So they're out there, they're making shit happen, and really utilizing the gifts and tools that they've been given. You know, like that's for me when I hear of ladies kicking ass, I'm like, hell yeah, like they're actually stepping into what they were made to do, or the gifts and talents they have.
Beautiful. Yes. Well, go forward with that today, ladies. That's about all you can say there. It's been such a beautiful conversation with you today, Cathy. It's been such an honor to get to know you and get to have this conversation and to introduce you to the Ladies Kickin Ass community. So thank you so much for your time. Again, everybody, make sure that you check out everything on her socials, get onto her website, sign up for the newsletter so you can go on really cool trips with everybody. And until next time, ladies, keep kicking ass.